Attention. Go.
The voice of the umpire sets off all the noise in these 8 events. It's just so loud up there at the start, and a few spectators to support these 2 crews in the first part of the island. We're looking at Vesta Rowing Club there. Wow, those are some really short, punchy strokes they've got going on.
They are short and punchy, and you can tell that they were punchy by the degree of movement of the cocks. And if you see the cocks moving quite a lot, what it tends to indicate is that actually the crew is applying pressure before the blades are fully in the water. So you need to smooth that out as they come towards the quarter-mile and stride, but actually it hasn't cost them anything in terms of boat speed. They're at least half a length, perhaps 2/3 of the length up on East India.
Yeah, we're looking there at East India Rowing Club on your picture. And actually, they seem to be focusing in quite well. You can hear the voice of their cocks, actually, off the sound boom we've got on the launch. She's been quite aggressive to try and keep them in contact, I feel. They've just got a slither of the canvas with overlap over Vesta. But look, I think this Vesta Rowing Club crew, they've got so much strength and depth this year. This is one of 3 crews that they've got entered into the Thames, and this is their top crew. So I think, on paper, we'd expect them to do pretty well there.
Yes, and they're opening up there, and you can see that already the rates come down compared to that punchy start, as you said, Camilla. They're longer in the water, just giving a little bit more time around the back end as well. Now, the boat is travelling fastest just at the point after the release of the blade, so it's really important to give the boat time just after the release, and that's what they seem to manage to do in that transition from the sprint at the start to their stride now as they come up towards the barrier.
Yeah, and just a little bit more experience perhaps in the Vesta crew. East India Club is actually a relatively new rowing club in the rowing world, rowing terms. They were only founded in 2008, which, again, a baby of a club compared to the likes of Vesta, who feels like they've been on the banks of Putney for, well, the last couple of 100 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, a new club. I noticed they were racing in a Quinton Boat Club shell. We've got a great view here of not only these 2 boats, and you can see that Vesta are now very much in command, but also a new umpires launch. That is launch 1. It's Bodicea, which is brand new this year. Launch 1, umpired by Richard Stanhope. And there's been much debate about whether or not it should have been called Bodicea or Boudica, who that legendary warrior was known as. And actually Bodicea is the name that she was known as in 1839 when the regatta was founded, and so that's why we chose Bodicea. In a year in which there are 3 new women's events, we thought it was important to have the new umpires launch named after a female warrior.
I think that is lovely. I really think that I'm so glad that Bodicea has managed to get a maiden voyage out for this regatta, because, you know, when we missed the regatta last year and we had the introduction of those new women's events, that was going to be such a nice pairing, and it's great that we could do that again in 2021 and relaunch that. But no women in this race, unfortunately. This is a Thames Challenge Cup heat that we're looking at. If you're just tuning in, this is Vesta Rowing Club on the left-hand side of your picture versus East India Club on the right-hand side of your picture. And Vesta, well, as we said right at the very start, probably one of the favourites in this event, a club that enters a lot into the club rowing events here at Henley Royal Regatta, and Vesta just taking the rating down somewhat as they come past the 3/4 mile here, Neil.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the 2 crews here, what you can really identify as a difference is just the length of stroke at the finish. Vesta have got more length and punch and drive at the finish of the stroke, just more time with the feet on the footplate just at the end of the stroke. East India now are looking a little bit short, and it tends to happen once you go down by 2 lengths or more, as now is the case, really hurting. That stroke only gets shorter, and that exacerbates the technical difference between the 2 crews. They're still giving it everything, as you'd expect, but they just haven't got quite as much length in the water as the Vesta crew.
And you can hear it, you know, if you've got the volume up on at home whilst you're watching this coverage, you can hear round the finish just that little bit quicker, that little bit sort of, you know, up and down than the Vesta crew, who you can just see by eye. They're down at 32 strokes a minute. In the stroke sheet, James King for the Vesta Rowing Club crew. He learned to row at St Paul's, also on the Tideway. A very experienced athlete there. They've got setting the rhythm in the stroke seat. This is his fourth Henley Royal Regatta, and again, experience means a lot, I think.
I think it does, particularly when you consider that you know, we haven't had a Henley for 2 years, so Henley experience is at more of a premium this year than in any other year. I think the Cox is doing a good job as well. Again, another example of the Cox keeping their crew dead straight on tight Berkshire booms, and I think that also gives a crew confidence. And when you're in a Cox boat, you don't expect to have to worry about steering, and it can be reassuring for a crew when they see back down the course just how straight their Cox is steering. It's just one less thing to worry about. It's
yeah, I think the trust that you put in your Cox at these events, and in the coxing seat for Vesta, Emily Jardin in that seat for them, taking them down the bush. She just took a little bit of a look there, and she actually still looks like she's sort of dipping into the stroke there now. I don't know, can you tell why that might be? She's sort of throwing her body forwards as they come up towards the catch.
Well, as I said earlier, I think one of the reasons why it can sometimes happen is that actually the leg drive is being applied before the spoon is fully buried, and what that does is it can check the boat a little bit, and you can sometimes identify that eye, whether the stern just dips down into the water. Far less now than it was, but it's something they might want to just check out in their next training paddle.
Yeah, do you know what? I think she's actually still quite animated with her coxing at this point in the race. And they've got oodles of water to play with. They've got a big old lead, but she's still being quite animated. And you can see there the distance that they managed to create over their opponents from East India Club, who come into the finish now for this heat of the Thames Challenge Cup.